The stars of the Nextel Cup Series are on pit road, poised for the 18th race of the season. 16 drivers broke the track record in qualifying, led by 32-year-old Jeff Gordon on the pole for the 4th straight race, chasing his 3rd straight win and hoping for another big day in a career full of accomplishments.
Here's our starting lineup for today's race. Jeff Gordon on pole with Casey Kane, trying to get that first win so desperately. He's alongside.
That's a real shock that Casey Kane would qualify well. He and Jeff Gordon dominated pole position qualifying this year.
Jimmy Johnson, championship leader, and the sensational rookie Brian Vickers, Hendrick Motorsports teammates in row number 2. In fact, Hendrick with 3 of the top 4 qualifiers out of that team's shots.
A couple of Roush Fords in row 3. Greg Biffle, Jeff Burton. Let's try talking to Jeff Burton. And hey, Jeff Burton, Benny Parsons, you got me?
TV, how you doing today?
Man, I'm doing great, Jeff. It's been a good while since you've won. Tell me how you're going to do it today.
Hopefully we got this Comcast Ford set up the way we need it to be. It's real sunny and hot today. Hadn't had these conditions yet. Hopefully we can take what we learned in the Busch race yesterday and apply that. Put ourselves in position when it counts.
Did you change the car any from yesterday's race to today's race? What you learned yesterday, did you use it to change the car for today?
A little bit of it, not a lot. I tell you what surprised me was how much the outside groove came in yesterday. You could really run up high in 1 and 2. I think you'll see a lot more of that today. Much wider track than we've seen here in the past. I think you'll see a lot of side-by-side racing. And we took that into account on some of our changes, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of it.
Well, Jeff, good luck today.
Jeff Burton with his best starting spot of the season. He's outside of row number 3 in search of that elusive victory. Continuing to look at the starting lineup for today's race, Terry Labonte, his son Justin, won yesterday. Can Dad make it a double on the weekend today? And Dale Earnhardt Jr., second in the championship chase, a little bit farther down the grid. He struggled here this weekend. Transmission failure in yesterday's final practice. They need some good things to happen today to stay up with Jimmy Johnson.
A couple of Fords back in row 15, Jarrett and Rudd.
John Andretti back this weekend, the 3rd car out of the Dale Earnhardt Incorporated stables. And now down to the drivers who got the final spots on time for this race and on off into provisional end. Pete Craven, Dave Blaney back in row 18. Michael Waltrip had some troubles on Friday. His car had been handling one way all during practice Friday. When he qualified, it handled just the opposite. He wasn't ready for it.
And that's exactly what Wally talked about in the opening.
That's right. He may have gotten that set of tires that just did not complement that car. That's going to catch some guys today. We need to really stay on top of that.
And P.J. Jones with the final spot in the field on a provisional. And just a few drivers unable to qualify for the race. Todd Bodine, Greg Sachs, Kirk Shelmerdine. You see drivers moving to the back. Most of them were starting toward the back anyway. And NASCAR's one engine per weekend rule comes into play there. Let's get some final stories from pit road before we go green. Dave, lead us off.
Well, Alan, yesterday in final practice, Brian Vickers had the fastest car on the racetrack. Now, some people say that number doesn't mean anything. But when you're 20 years old, you're a rookie, you're driving for one of the most successful Nextel Cup owners in history, that means a lot. Anytime you're first on the track is a great motivator. Brian starts 4th today and has a very fast race car. Matt?
Like every other driver, Casey Mears' season began at Daytona, but his season didn't really come together until he scored a 7th at Texas. He has since rattled off 5 more top 10 finishes. He told me this morning he is extremely jacked up about his chances, not only for a good run today, but his shot at his first Nextel Cup Series win. He said his only problem with his race car, an aero-tight condition in final practice, but judging by the Busch race, he feels like a second groove will work in, and that will go right to him and his shot at a win. To Marty Snyder.
Matt, don't let the fact that Michael Waltrip starts 39th fool you, because Slugger Labby, the crew chief, told me this morning the car is so good we could even win from back there. And a win would be the perfect start to what already promises to be a great week for Michael this week. Tomorrow, Dale Earnhardt Incorporated will announce that Napa and Michael Waltrip are back for the 2005 season. Mikey will be in the 15 car next year. Bill?
Marty, Michael Waltrip does not yet know what it's like to win a Nextel Cup Series championship. Jeff Gordon knows what it's like to win a championship in this sport. He's won 4 of them. This season, he's chasing his 5th, but it will be the first time he would be a Nextel Cup Series champion. What's that going to be like? A new format, new challenges. 9 races to Richmond to decide which drivers will compete for the Nextel Cup. That race is just moments away from beginning. Alan?
The race analysis, 267 laps on this mile-and-a-half track to make up the 400-mile distance. Fuel mileage probably going to factor in somewhere near the end of this thing. And the last red flag lap, NASCAR won't stop the race after the leader has completed lap 263 in order to try and get a green flag finish. I guess that roar is all you need to know, huh? Pace car's off. And it is time to start today's NASCAR Nextel Cup Series race on NBC. We're underway.
Now, you know, they say it's not important to lead the first lap, but on these type of tracks, you want to be out front. So if you can get out front quick, it's going to be better for the aerodynamics of your car.
Jeff Gordon, Casey Kane racing for that top spot.
Jimmy Johnson taking a look. Taking a look on a 9-car Casey Kane. Can't pull it off.
Gordon leads lap 1, Kane is 2nd, Johnson is 3rd, Greg Biffle is 4th, and 5th is Brian Vickers. Tony Stewart trying to pick up some spots.
Picked up some spots by the looks of it. He went way high and got right up against the wall. Looks like he passed a few of them.
Going by Ryan Newman on the outside as we look on board Ryan Newman's car, Tony Stewart going down the backstretch at turn 3. Early on, all these guys will run right on the bottom of the racetrack with these cold, fresh tires. But as Jeff Gordon talked about, they will be moving up as the laps progress.
Tony started 10th. He's up to 7th now. And just in front of Ryan Newman. And running just behind Mike Bliss, driving the 3rd Joe Gibbs Racing entry this weekend, number 80. That'll be the car Tony tries to catch next. You see Bliss left of the screen. Normally runs the NASCAR Busch Series for Joe Gibbs. They've had this 3rd R&D team that they've brought out a couple of times a year every year, and it's out here this weekend, and Bliss really qualified well. In fact, he was the highest qualified of the 3 Joe Gibbs cars. He outran Tony Stewart and he outran Bobby Labonte.
And that's what the R&D deal is all about, is trying to try different things that the other guys can't, because you're in a points run. So they're learning a lot, and it's paying off.
Dale Jr., Rusty Wallace back in traffic. They're racing for 22nd and 23rd.
Junior started 25th, so he has moved up a couple of spots. Tony Stewart goes by Bliss. Here comes Ryan Newman in the 12 car going by Bliss in 80.
So that puts Tony up to 6th. Newman taking 7th, and here comes Jeff Burton in the 99.
It doesn't look like Mike Bliss in that 80 car can keep the car down on that bottom like the other cars right now. And that's going to hurt him, because he's going to have some guys passing him.
Check this Casey Mears driving up on the outside of Jeff Burton and trying to take that spot away. Already they're up on the top side of the racetrack.
Now, if the 80 car is loose of Mike Bliss, he does not want the 41 car behind him. He may be moving up that racetrack or using that higher line because he's loose, and it looks like he is a little bit loose right there.
Loose when the front end grips better than the back end, and the back end wants to come around on you when you're turning left. Bliss is hanging tough on Newman.
41 needs to get down.
Looks like that 41 car is pretty fast. If he can get to the bottom of the racetrack, there he comes.
That's Casey Mears in the 41 sliding down. Ryan Newman trying to get the spot away from Mike Bliss. Dave, how about Newman?
Alan, in practice yesterday, they went from very, very tight to loose on the car. They thought maybe just a little bit too loose, so they tightened that car up this morning by making a track bar adjustment, also taking camber out of the left front tire. But that side-by-side racing, Wally, I don't think you prepare for that nearly as much as you prepare for your car being alone on the track.
Well, that's exactly right. When you're out there trying to get a balance on the car in practice, you're out there by yourself, and until you're happy with the balance of the car, you don't go out and run in traffic. A lot of these guys are running in traffic for the first time with their race setup.
Casey Mears in the 41, Bakersfield, California native. Picks up a spot, moves him up to 9th.
And last time Mears in the 41 pulled up behind Mike Bliss in the 80 as he pulled up right behind him, really got him loose, and Bliss had to chase the car off the racetrack and back off the throttle, which allowed Casey Mears to drive by.
Elliott Sadler on the move there, 38 car to the inside. And behind them, Kevin Harvick, 29, trying to get a spot on Jamie McMurray in the 42.
That's 12th and 13th. The 29 is in 13th. That's Harvick.
Sorry, I was just going to say Chad Blunt just took the 37 car into the garage. He's out after just a couple laps.
What are they saying about the 29 there, Marty?
Well, Harvick hasn't said a word on the radio so far, Wally, but this is not the car that he won 2 races here with. The same car that he won Indianapolis with, as we have a battle for 3rd. But this is a brand new car for Kevin Harvick. They ran that car that won all those races 6 times this year, put 2 new bodies on it, and now have scrapped it. This is a new car for Harvick.
And Greg Biffle, the 16 car, goes by Jimmy Johnson, goes into the 3rd spot. And remember how well that Greg Biffle ran in California back in late April, early May. A racetrack very similar to this, huh, Bill?
Absolutely, Benny. In fact, talking to their crew this morning, and crew chief Doug Pritchard, he wanted cloud cover. He wanted a cooler day because they're better in cooler weather. But they said this car is good. It is the California car. It said this car gives his driver confidence on this type of track. They tried to make it a little bit better, but they had confidence in the car and in the driver when the green flag fell.
And Bill Weber, that is real important when you're a race car driver, because if a race car driver has confidence in one of those cars, these guys have a lot of cars to work with, but if you like a race car and you're confident with that car, man, that is a huge plus when you go racing.
And all of a sudden, the Nextel Cup points leader, Jimmy Johnson, seems to be struggling. Biffle goes by. Now Tony Stewart goes by.
So Jimmy Johnson back to 5th. We'll talk about teams that wanted cloud cover. There are clouds moving in, and there are rainstorms on the radar. We don't want that. We'll hope that that stays away from us so we can get this thing in full distance. Tony Stewart, Matty.
Tony Stewart on the move, and it's not a surprise. You look at the last 2 years here at Chicagoland, a 2nd and a 3rd, and he has led over 125 laps. Now, Tony's car was a little free in the final practice session. They made some slight shock adjustment, tightened him up, and he is on the move. His teammate, the 80, Mike Bliss, extremely loose, guys.
It looked it, man. I mean, you can tell when the car's up on the top side of the racetrack early like that and doesn't want anybody behind you, that's because he is loose.
Can you celebrate too much? Not when it's this big. Happy 100th birthday to Haviland. Add more life to your car.
Hello. Partly cloudy, very warm, muggy afternoon. Some impressive hardware as part of the pre-race festivities. And an impressive start for Casey Kane as he and Jeff Gordon traded the lead in the opening laps. Lap 19, first caution, Ryan Newman and Kurt Busch. You ride with Kurt.
Left rear tire on Newman's car goes flat. He spins up in front of Kurt Busch, who has nowhere to go except into the...
We ever talked to
2 of the drivers in the top 10 in the Nextel Cup Series Championship. The restart from that caution, things went kind of ugly for Greg Biffle and Brian Vickers.
See Biffle with the left front fender rubbing the tire. And the damage to the hood as well.
Now ahead to lap 40, Ricky Rudd blows the tire, leaves debris on the racetrack. Caution is out. Most of the leaders pit under this yellow. And it moves us ahead to lap 96. Green flag pit stops. Well,
Junior started to make a pit stop, but missed. Pit road was running too fast to make the entry.
And then when he came back and actually made his pit stop, he was speeding coming in, and he got a pass-through penalty, and that whole sequence kind of
got in trouble.
Yeah, put a little sour note on his day. 11 different leaders today, 4 caution flags. You see 4 cars out of the race. They include Hermie Sadler, Bobby Hamilton Jr., Kevin LePage, and Chad Blunt. A few others have been in the garage for repairs and come back out, like Brian Newman. Kurt Busch still getting repairs made to his car. And that's what's happened so far through the first half of today's race. Just as we come back to Chicagoland, that's the race leader, Casey Kane. He took fuel only on the restart, and he's got company in the big pile.
Junior, the 8 car has crashed.
Dave Blaney, John Andretti was involved. 4 tires, no tires, 2 tires.
And Jeff Burton, the 99 car.
You think somebody spun their tires on a restart?
No, because Tony Stewart jumped up on the outside of Sterling Marlin and passed him on the restart, which was legal, but he might have made contact with the 9 car.
Scott Riggs with damage. He was having a good run. Casey Kane took fuel only on his pit stop, got out front with the lead. His teammate Jeremy Mayfield and Sterling Marlin only took right side tires. Tony Stewart was the first one with 4 tires. He got an incredible jump on the restart to the outside. You see Blaney waiting for help.
I'm interested to see what happened myself, Wally. I did see Tony get that great jump.
He did get a good start. Let's watch here. Tony gets on the outside of the 40.
I think when he goes up on the outside of the 9, or wait a minute, we'll see.
But you know what? What caused that? You got a guy that's not on new tire.
Wow.
BP, there's a big fight in the 20 pit. Tommy Baldwin, a number of the Dodge guys came down to talk to the 20 crew members. NASCAR officials do have Tommy Baldwin. They are trying to break this up. Huge altercation down here in the 20 pit, guys.
Man.
Here's my point on this deal, guys. When some guys take tires, some guys don't take tires. If you don't have new tires, you can't go into turn 1 as hard as the guy that's got new tires. So Casey Kane went into the corner, but he couldn't charge the corner like Tony Stewart, who had the new tires.
Never see Tommy Baldwin, the crew chief on the right, the light-haired fellow, the dark-haired fellow, Jim Pullman, the car chief.
And it may not be over yet.
No, doesn't look like it.
That's the problem when you have the different tire deal.
Jason Shapiro there, the NASCAR official. Tempers have boiled.
Yes, they have. Hey, this is no different than any sporting event.
That happens in the booth all the time when you guys aren't watching.
Turn that camera off, because I'm fixing to hit Wally.
All right, let's go back and show it to you again. All right,
now listen. Here you got 20 on fresh tires. Now he gets a great start. Now the 9 doesn't have fresh tires, so he's going to have to be a little bit more careful getting the corner. He's going to back out early. Tony doesn't. He can drive in deeper because he's got newer tires. That's what caused that deal.
He ran the back of the 9 car, just turned him, and into the wall he went.
Tony just did not expect the 9 car to lift, and maybe he wasn't told that he was on older tires. Unfortunately, it took out a lot of good race cars.
Never see the contact between the 10.
Wow,
but nobody did anything wrong on that deal. I mean, you know what I'm saying? You're driving the car to how the car feels. It just, you know, the 9 had to get out earlier because he wasn't on the fresher tires.
See Dale Jr. get knocked around and spun, second place driver in the championship.
And once the 9 car comes off the wall, he leaves those other fellows behind him with no place to go. You know, we're talking about the guy that was leading the race spinning.
On a restart with the whole field bunched up together. Fortunately, they weren't all up to top speed yet.
Sure did a lot of damage not being up to top speed, though, as well.
On board Dale Jr.
And he got nowhere to go in a situation like this. I mean, well, actually, Junior checked up and somebody hit him.
Someone ran the back of him and spun him around. That's right.
When you're trying to pick your way through on a wreck like this, when you're in something like this, you're seeing things happen. When you back off, sometimes you get nailed. Wow, that was a great job by Jeremy Mayfield.
Scott Riggs, he doesn't make out as well.
He sees something happening, he checks up.
And in front of you. Back
Checks
her out,
up.
back her down.
Oh, here
and has nowhere to go.
There comes a 30, which leaves him no place to go. Let's see. There, Tony Stewart goes by the 40 car. And here he comes up right on the back of the 9 and just touches him, but just entering the corner. Turns the 9, around he goes.
The end result is that there are a few cars in the garage, a few cars beaten up, and Tony Stewart is the race leader.
A few guys beaten up.
Yeah, a few guys beaten up too, yeah. Dale Jarrett and Robbie Gordon got a lap back because they were in front of the leader when the caution came out. In this mess, down in turn 1 on a restart. Casey Kane leading, contact with he and Tony Stewart, and the wreck was on. We're just about to the halfway point of today's race at Chicagoland Speedway. We'll be back in a minute. Those involved in the wreck. Jeff Gordon has made several pit stops. He continues in competition. John Andretti does as well. Casey Kane has taken his car to the garage for repairs along with Jeff Burton and Dave Blaney. Tony Stewart is the race leader over Sterling Marlin, Jeremy Mayfield, Jimmy Johnson, and Elliott Sadler. We have 22 cars on the lead lap. We added a couple there under that last caution. Scott Wimmer was the lucky dog, plus Dale Jarrett and Robbie Gordon.
All right, BP, now we'll see if that 20 car takes off again because he's out front in clean air. We thought there was something wrong with this car earlier. We'll see if it was the traffic that was the problem. In the meantime, you got the guys in the back that are in traffic. Sterling Marlin, Jimmy Johnson back there.
Remember that Marlin and Jeremy Mayfield only got right side tires on their pit stops there a little while ago. Casey Kane is with Marty Snyder.
Casey, what happened?
I was about to restart, going through the gears. I was just shifting into fourth. My car got loose and hit the wall. I don't know if obviously the 20 got in the back of me, but you know, I don't know what the deal is there.
You two do have a history. Do you think it was personal or just racing?
Well, you never know with him, but you know, I don't think he's. It's tough to say with him. I don't really know. I just know that I was just getting ready to shift to fourth. My car was sliding a little bit, and as I pulled it into fourth, I was backwards in the wall. So it's too bad for our Dodge dealers team. It's disappointing.
Were you aware of the altercation on pit road between your team and his team?
I just heard about it. You know, I don't know. I don't know what to say about that. Maybe we'll. I don't know.
All right, the young man truly had a shot to win this race, but he's done now.
It looks like Tony Stewart's car is okay, Wally, because the last lap, he turned his fastest lap of the day.
Yeah. Well, one thing you can say about... all right, we'll follow up on that thought in a second. Dave?
Caught up with Tommy Baldwin now. Tommy, what happened out there on pit road?
Just Tony Stewart doing what he's been doing all year, driving like a moron. You know, there's no reason to do that stuff, and he gets away with it all he wants, and all NASCAR does is fine him. He's got plenty of money. The guy needs to sit out a race. That's it.
What was your intention when you went down to Greg to talk about it?
Talking to Zippy and tell him, you know, his driver's a moron. I got off the pit box. They started pushing me. Then the official grabbed me. I don't know what happened after that.
All right, it was a big melee, guys, and Tommy Baldwin obviously not happy what happened to his car today.
And Tommy has been invited to visit with NASCAR officials at the conclusion of today's race.
I guess we got to get it. Don't in basketball, isn't there a rule that the coaches can't leave the coaches box or the players can't?
Sure,
You
yeah.
can't leave your pit box, I guess. You got to come up with a rule.
We got a third man in rule in hockey. You can't be the third man in the fight.
Okay, well.
Tommy and let's see, it was Marty interviewing Casey, referenced history between Casey Kane and Tony Stewart. And just to bring you up to speed, if you don't recall the history, this goes back to Darlington in the spring.
Casey Kane, the 9, goes up. He thinks he's clear of Tony. Goes up and makes contact with Tony. Goes down the corner, and in my opinion, Tony deliberately spun out the 9 car.
I'll go with you on that one, BP.
And so that is, I think that kind of started things, the ball rolling.
But I don't know. I just see this thing different. I just see that Tony Stewart has got a lot of steam, and all of a sudden that 9 car, whether he was shifting gears or whatever, slowed down in front of the 20 car.
Oh, I don't think this was a punt, a deliberate thing here. No, I don't think that
see
at all.
this as an intentional. I don't think Darlington had anything to do with just happened.
But it happened.
Well, but it happened.
And the tempers boiled.
Yep.
And the results you saw. And by the way, Greg Zipadelli, Tony Stewart's crew chief, has been invited for a visit with NASCAR officials after the race too. I'll stand by my earlier statement. There'll be some money cashed in later this week and some fines and other things handed out too. Tony Stewart leading this race. The 41 car of Casey Mears is a lap down. He's the first car a lap down in 23rd position. The next car chasing Tony is that car, Jimmy Johnson, 2 seconds behind.
And right now he's about as fast as Tony Stewart, running about the same speed as Tony Stewart. But Tony has a 2-second lead, just like you said, Alan. Maybe he's coasting a little bit right now.
And Casey Mears is staying right with Tony Stewart. He's running very well right now. He's running great lap time. So if he can get that lucky dog if yellow comes out, or if he's lucky enough to pass Tony.
Casey had to make an unscheduled pit stop at lap 118, which dropped him off the lead lap, which is the hole he's trying to dig out of now. How about Tony Stewart's team, Matt?
Well, guys, to answer your questions about the race car before this caution, now Tony had never said anything on the radio concerning that contact. Basically what he needed help with, he needed the race car to be tightened up just a tick from the entry to center of the corner, especially on the takeoff, meaning when they dropped the green flag, the first part of the run. That's where he needed the most help, because he felt like he was giving up too much time before the car finally came in.
But when he was having problems was later in his run, where Benny and I saw it looked like there may have been some problems after he had contact with John Andretti. So that's what we thought was the fender problem.
And it could have been, just as we talked about, an aero situation,
right, getting
up behind the zero car aboard. Burt not being able to get by because of an aero push situation.
Well, they fixed it, Matt, regardless if they whatever they did, because he looks like he's running pretty good right now off the bat.
Tony's lead over Jimmy Johnson, 2.1 seconds at this point. As you look back.
Now, see, I'm not sure if I was in Tony's spot, if I was just let that 41 go.
But the problem is, if the 41 slows down, Wally, and it is an aero push situation, he will not be able to pass him. Like he couldn't get by the zero car aboard Burton.
I think I'd get on my radio and I'd tell my spotter, listen, if I let the 41 go, he's going to have to go. If I get back to him, he's going to have to let me pass him.
There's Jimmy Johnson, one of the Gillette Young Guns, as we update where those drivers participating in that program are running today. The first micro power shaving system from Gillette, the new M3 Power, the new power behind the Gillette Young Guns. Johnson leading the charge for the Young Guns here in Chicagoland today. How about 48 car, Matty?
Well, earlier in the race, Alan, he was tight trying to get back in the gas. Coming up off the corner, they made an air pressure adjustment to fix that. He also has some left front fender damage. Jimmy says that is making the car tight.
Damage in that jam up on the restart, I'm assuming.
Don't know.
Don't know, but
Matt will tell us for sure in a second here, I'll bet.
Doesn't matter. Damage looks like right there in the bottom, maybe the valence.
The very bottom of the front air damper.
See right there?
What's happening? It's dragging the racetrack, and it's drug it back.
Yep. See right there in the right side of your screen, that valence is pushed backwards. That's not where it should be. It should be pushed out a little bit.
Matt's double checking with Chad Knaus for us to make sure where they picked that damage up, so we'll hear from him in a second.
And you see Jimmy Johnson run this very, very high line. Matt, what are they saying?
BP, it happened on that restart.
Thank you, Matt. Appreciate the hustle. So your championship leader in the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series, Jimmy Johnson, is chasing Tony Stewart right now. Johnson in search of his 4th win of 2004. Stewart looking for his first win of this year's campaign. Laps to go on the restart. And 21 cars on the lead lap. Tony Stewart, the race leader, followed by Jimmy Johnson, Elliott Sadler, Sterling Marlin, and Jeremy Mayfield. Casey Mears in the 41 is the first car a lap down in 22nd place.
Tell you what, every restart so far today, somebody has had a problem. It looked like the 88 had a problem that time on the restart.
Jarrett restarted in 9th place.
As we watch this battle, cars going in turn 3. Jimmy Spencer was not able to get up to speed quickly. in the 4 car.
Okay.
All right, Jimmy Johnson's got his best shot. He's right there behind Tony Stewart. Can he do anything with him?
Take the whoa. Boy, that car looked like it got a little bit loose in there. Jimmy Johnson, that 48 car. Now you're to him, you got to figure out how to get around him. That's the really tough part. Tony Stewart's been working that bottom lane, so Jimmy's going to have to look at the high side to try to make a pass.
And I tell you what, when you do that, when you move up the racetrack just a few feet, it makes that racetrack so much larger and turns the engine maybe a couple of hundred RPMs more than you're turning it. And sometimes these things will not run 400 or 500 miles.
Jimmy Johnson, even if he finishes second to Tony Stewart today, going to gain some ground in the Nextel Cup Championship standings. Remember, Dale Earnhardt Jr. was involved in a wreck a little earlier, and Jr.'s running 22nd, a lap down.
You know, another problem with that, BP, is your engine will peak out sooner because you're running more RPMs on the high side. So your engine will fall off quicker when you get down the straightaway. They make power up to a certain point, then they go flat.
This is as close as anybody's been to Stewart for a while. Johnson looking outside.
Here we go. Now he's looking inside.
Crossover.
He's got a fender.
He's there.
Still outside.
Outside someplace. Tony Stewart in the 20 car has not been today.
Great job,
Jimmy Johnson.
Are the man. Do it.
New leader.
And I think Tony gave him a little bit of a break there.
Why?
Well, because it was close coming off of that turn 4. And I think if Tony could have stayed in the throttle, he would have gotten that 48 loose. I don't think he wants any more of that today. I think he was pretty nice about that move, because the 48 was sliding right up in front of the 20 car.
Could have also taken his fenders off, too, if he stuck to the outside of Jimmy and Jimmy didn't know he was there.
Yep.
And something kicked around the last couple of days. We want to kick around with you, our Singular Race Talk poll. A lot of talk that NASCAR is going to implement a green-white checker finish system for the Nextel Cup Series, similar to the one they use in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series. Certainly been some displeasure expressed by fans at a couple of tracks with races finishing under the yellow flag, and we want to know if NASCAR should change the rule in order to guarantee a green flag finish like now, later this season, not at all, or next season.
I think that's going to be an easy one.
That's
what
easy.
the answer's going to be.
I'm not going to sway anybody's opinion. Just vote your heart, folks.
There are some people who would prefer not to change the rules of competition in the middle of a year. We'll find out.
Don't try to sway these people. Let them vote their hearts.
Let the people vote. That's right. That's why I wanted to just offer the options and see what the people feel.
Okay. All right, we'll find out.
1 million. Wait a minute.
Caught your eye, huh?
Where's the phone?
Jimmy Johnson gapping Tony Stewart by about a half a second. I talked with Chad Canals, Jimmy Johnson's crew chief, this morning. They spent a lot of their time in yesterday's final practice scuffing tires, putting a brand new set of tires on the car, going out, running a half a lap with it, then coming back in. And I asked Chad the purpose of that. He said, because there have been some minor inconsistencies between the sets of tires, like you said at the top of the broadcast, Wally, they want to know what they've got on the car when it comes down to this part of the race.
That's right. You go out and you run 2 or 3 laps on a set of tires. If you don't like a set of tires, if there's a set of tires that are scary, you're going to know it in those first 3 or 4 laps. So it's exactly what they were doing.
About for 4th position between Sterling Marlin and the silver 40 and 19 Jeremy Mayfield. Mayfield has the measure on him now.
And makes the pass. Terry Labonte joining the fray there in 6th position, Bill.
And if you think Jeff Gordon was the lucky dog on the last caution, Terry Labonte was probably the lucky dog. This is the right front tire off of Terry's car after just 53 laps. You can see right here, Wally and Benny, all this rubber is gone. Terry couldn't feel it. The car was just starting to get a little tight. This was a scuffed tire when they put it on. A lot of talk about that here, as Alan was alluding to. So that's something we'll have to watch for in the closing laps of this race. Tire wear, a problem yesterday, and a question perhaps down the stretch here at Chicago. Sometimes the track can cause that. Sometimes the setup can cause that. Sometimes the tire. Sometimes a combination of all three.
But, Bill, what did they do to fix that?
They took it off.
What did they do to fix it for the next one?
They made a chassis adjustment there, a wedge and air pressure adjustment. I'll double check with Jim Long to find out.
Yeah, I was going to say the air pressure adjustment is what's going to do it. The reason that's happening, in my opinion, is that they're starting the tires down too low on air pressure. What that does is that builds the heat up too fast. When you do that with these tires, they separate. And that's a lot of it. Another problem, BP, is a control arm issue, but I don't think that's the issue here. I think it's pressure issue here.
When I talked to the Goodyear engineers this morning, that's what they felt like the problem was a tire pressure situation where the teams, in trying to make their car handle, has dropped the pressure down too low.
Right. How about Terry Labonte by Sterling Marlin into the top 5? He's chasing his Hendrick Motorsports teammate Jimmy Johnson, the NASCAR Nextel Cup Series championship leader. Tony Stewart has dominated the day, but as we get into the final 78 laps, it's Jimmy Johnson who's the man out in front in pursuit of his 4th victory of the 2004 season. Just with 2 tires on his pit stop. Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson with 4 fresh Goodyears.
I want 4. I don't think 2 is going to be able to hold them off.
Jeremy Mayfield winless so far this season. He does have a couple of second-place finishes. Owensboro, Kentucky native has taken 2 tires on a few different times today, Marty, for track position.
Yeah, and Kenny Francis just came on the radio and said, remember how good the car was earlier when we took 2 tires. And also, I want to reiterate to you, we are not conserving fuel. You go for everything you need out there on the track.
Okay, so they got it full. So Mayfield leading Tony Stewart by just a couple of car lengths. Under the green with 50 to go. Talked earlier about the green flag finish, the green-white checker that is potentially coming to NASCAR Nextel Cup Racing.
We knew the answer.
I knew the answer to that.
Hey, but looky here. You got 24% over here. That's a bigger number than I thought.
It is, too. I thought that number 66% would be about 86%.
99, yeah.
Ooh, wow, that was close up there in turn 2. Brian Vickers.
And with half the season remaining, do you want to see the rule change for a green-white checker finish?
Do I want to see it as a booth boy or as a driver?
Both.
Don't want to see it as a driver.
As a booth boy.
Love it. Can't wait. That's right. It's totally different because, you know, as a driver, you're getting set up for those last 3 laps at green-white checker for disaster. And I don't want to see that. But, man, as a fan, the fans are going to love it. So there's 2 different opinions.
I know you're all for it, BP.
I was not for it, but again, I'm on the fan side. They go through enough to be here and pay their money to watch this race, watch it home on TV for 3 or 4 hours. They deserve to see a green flag finish.
Details forthcoming soon from NASCAR, according to President Mike Helton, who talked with us about it on Thursday. Now, we heard. We'll get back to the cause of Wally's ooh-ooh there in a minute. First, Mark Martin. We've been talking about him having a good day today. He just took 6th place, rather, away from Joe Nemechek. Listen in.
Ooh, this motor's big.
Now, that you don't hear often from any driver, let alone Mark. But I'll tell you what, when you've got a good handling car, you think you got 200 horsepower more than anybody else.
Here we go for the lead. Putting Dale Jr. a lap down. Tony Stewart right up on the back bumper of Jeremy Mayfield. They've shaken Jimmy Johnson for a second.
This is just a matter of time, I think, Alan. I really think that the 20 car is just, all he's got to do is be patient here. The 19 car with just 2 tires is not going to have the grip that Tony Stewart's going to have in another 10 or 15 laps. What do you think, Matt?
Well, he just needs a little bit of time to showcase what that 20 car will do. It takes a little while for the car to come in. It starts out a little free on the get-go. They made a slight air pressure adjustment to speed up that process for this final run. Dave.
Matt, on the radio yesterday during practice, Mark Martin was heard to utter that same sound, that woo, and that was when he passed a car that he hadn't been able to pass here before. It was a 12 car Brian Newman and the last year's winner, and that's when he knew he had a really good piece for this weekend.
All right, so Mark running in 6th place with big motor. And here's the cause for Wally's ooh a minute ago. Watch Brian Vickers, the yellow stripes with the tape flapping top of the screen.
Actually, Rusty Wallace got loose and darn near ran into the 25 car, Brian Vickers.
It's almost like Brian Vickers was seeing out the back of his head because somehow he realized that he needed to give Rusty some room. If he had not given him room, there would have been a crash.
Rusty running in 11th. Brian Vickers falling back to 14th place. 43 laps to go. Jeremy Mayfield trying to hold off the driver who's dominated the race so far, Tony Stewart. Into the closing laps here at Chicagoland. Let's show you how we got here. Casey Kane in the 9 passing Jeff Gordon for the lead in the opening laps. A couple of laps later, caution was out for the first time in the race.
See, the 12 car, Ryan Newman, loses a left rear tire, spins the car right up in front of Kurt Busch. Both those cars in the wall.
A couple guys in the top 10 in the Nextel Cup Championship standings who wound up damaged and spent a lot of time in the garage getting repairs. Here's the big controversy of the day. Casey Kane leading on a restart. Tony Stewart, contact from behind.
Like a Talladega or Daytona crash.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. swept up into the accident. Second place man in the championship, and this was the scene on pit road.
This is not a dancing contest.
As one crew chief went to visit another, and the discussion went on from there. Tony Stewart has dominated today. He's led 147 of the 255 laps we've run. This was the one segment of the race where somebody but Tony Stewart had the strongest car.
Jimmy Johnson comes off turn 2, goes by Tony Stewart, but then the caution flag came out later on. They made a pit stop, and he's just not been able to get that car back up to speed.
Teams have tried to get 2 tires and no tires to get in front of Stewart.
Yep, Sterling Marlin missed a shit and, boy, lost 3-4 positions on that one.
See Jeremy Mayfield in front of Tony Stewart. His crew giving him 2 tires on the last pit stop that they made, but after following him around for about 27 laps, Stewart finally able to get the good out of his 4 fresh tires and overtake Jeremy Mayfield for the top spot. That's how we've gotten to where we are, and now we're coming to the green flag for a restart that'll be with 11 laps to go.
Okay, now this is where it's real important for Tony Stewart to get the best restart of the day, and for everybody else that matter. You know, I mean, you've got to be right on the guy's bumper on the restart because this is it.
Not pictured in our race recap much, Jeff Gordon, the driver who started on pole today, looking to win a 3rd straight race. He has struggled all day long. A jacking screw backing out of the suspension of his car. The crew has finally fixed it, and Gordon is up to 10th place.
And the important thing for Jimmy Johnson, Jeremy Mayfield, Mark Martin on this restart is to get by Kyle Petty.
Kyle will probably just go very slow down into turn 1 to give these leaders all an equal opportunity to get by.
Green flag.
Kind of looks like it, huh? So here we go.
Everybody's clear so far except for Mark.
11 laps to go.
Mark is clear. Well, that was pretty nice of Kyle.
Tony Stewart, Jimmy Johnson, Jeremy Mayfield, Mark Martin, Sterling Marlin, the top 5. Dale Jarrett with 2 fresh tires on his last pit stop, and then Jeff Gordon with 4 fresh tires on his pit stop, trying to make way through the traffic.
Elliott Sadler, 38 car, looked like he had a problem on the restart.
He was very slow down the backstretch, lost several positions. He goes from 8th all the way back to 12th. Here goes Mark Martin trying to get on the inside of Jeremy Mayfield. He does it. Battle for 3rd.
And through. Mark Martin has rallied back. They had a problem on a pit stop. He had to take to the grass during a caution flag and make an extra pit stop. Yet he's up to 3rd, trying to close on the leaders. Terry Labonte trying to get under Sterling Marlin and grab a spot.
Look at Jeff Gordon. 8th spot right now.
He's going to get done with this day and think of what might have been.
Oh, yes. That jacking ball comes undone. Let me tell you something. Those cars are wicked to drive.
Working on Terry Labonte for 6th place is Jeff. He's trying. Yeah. I tell you what, it's been a very solid day for that 5 car. You know, Terry started 24th. His crew chief Jim Long told me this morning they weren't all that thrilled with their car. They made some changes. They've played the strategy game correctly. They've gotten in track position. They stayed out one time when a lot of other people pitted. There are those 2 words again we've used all day.
He just got some inspiration from his son yesterday.
Yeah. Not familiar, Terry's 23-year-old son, Justin, with his first NASCAR Busch Series win here at Chicagoland yesterday. We showed it to you live on NBC. 7 laps to go. Jeff Gordon through to 6th place. Dale Jarrett's next in front of him. Out in front, Jimmy Johnson can't handle Tony Stewart. He's pulling away in the 20 car.
Now, it looks like Tony's got it where he wants it. Mark is picking up a little bit on the 48 car, but he's got to, once he catches him, he's got to figure a way to pass him, and we've only got 6 to go to come back across the line.
Mark Martin on lap 259 ran his fastest lap of the day.
He's about 0.2 of a second faster than Jimmy Johnson.
But
he may catch him.
Second now.
Yes.
Not enough laps left. You'll agree with my math on that.
I will agree with you on that.
Okay. Mayfield and Jarrett, 4th and 5th. Going to be a good day in the championship standings for Dale Jarrett. Those drivers on the outside looking in for now in that 10-driver chase for the Nextel Cup. And up to Tony Stewart. 5 to go.
Got that racetrack all to himself, BP, and that's what you want.
Tony Stewart has been excellent here the last couple of years. He finished 3rd in 2002, led 35 laps. He won the pole and finished 2nd here last year, led 80 laps. But you know, the fact that Tony Stewart has not won yet this season is sort of a payoff to the feature we did on Discover Card Countdown to Green about just how difficult it is to win these Nextel Cup Series races. Everything's got to be perfect.
Everything has got to be perfect. And you know where it's really going to count.
But wait a minute. Yesterday, everything wasn't perfect. They had, you know, Mike Wallace stayed out there. He got some track position and started running some fast laps, and he ran out of gas.
Well, it wasn't perfect.
That's
he
right.
ran out of gas.
You've got to be perfect.
Well, I guess that's right. Oh, got a car.
Who's that?
Mark
Martin scraping the wall.
No, he's got a... Oh, you have a tire go down, or maybe let's see.
What did he say? My brakes are gone. Did he say my brakes are gone, Dave?
He said I saved it. Now, I haven't figured out if he hit the switch as quick as he said I saved
race car. I can't believe it.
I don't know if we have a replay of how he was off the turn. Okay, it blew up, he said. Yep. But he saved the race car. He didn't get into the wall. This is a favorite race car of theirs. They're taking it testing at Indianapolis Monday, guys.
Oh, man, how
this is big disappointment.
How disappointing is this for Mark Martin?
So we stay under green, and we are coming to the white flag for Tony Stewart. He will come by Mark Martin's wounded car, and Tony will have a final 1.5 mile lap to try and secure his first win of 2004. Of course, the day's headlines will be an interesting one for Tony and his team, involved in the incident with Casey Kane a little earlier on a restart, and then the altercation on pit road between the 9 and 20 pit crews. But in the end, it'll be a dominating performance by Stewart, who will have led 160 of 267 laps.
That's pretty dominant.
Oh, he's been by far the best car today. There's no doubt about it.
Drivers who won a race a year ago who've not won this year. There are quite a few of them. In fact, 11 drivers. Winners last year, not this. Scratch one off the list. Tony Stewart, with his first win of 2004, he takes the Tropicana 400 in Chicago by almost 3 seconds over Jimmy Johnson. Great run for Dale Jarrett with a 3rd place finish. And how about Jeff Gordon, after his struggles all day long, comes back for 4th.
Amazing. You could never count those guys out.
Tell you what, DJ and Jeremy Mayfield, both those guys trying to get in that top 10 in NASCAR Nextel Cup. Great run for them today.
Tony, congratulations. Your weekend started off in a tough fashion, losing a race car after someone dropped oil on the track. Then you came back into victory lane, your first win of the year.
Yeah, what an awesome weekend, boy. I tell you, these Home Depot guys, they had the longest day on Friday that I think I've ever seen them have on a Friday here, but you know, they just did a great job. You know, we made some changes yesterday. Zippy and I talked about it, and this thing was just awesome all day long.
Tony, tell me about what happened with the 9 of Casey Kane.
I wish I knew. I mean, all I know is I got around the 40 car and I got back in the slot and was catching him. I started checking up, and then he checked up, and I don't know if, you know, somebody pinched him to where he had to get out of the gas, or if he missed a shift, or he just shifted or what. But I mean, I was right on his butt, but all of a sudden he checked up, and like I say, I don't know what happened. I don't know if he got forced to check up or what happened, but you know, that was a bad deal. I mean, we could have got taken out just as easy as anybody does that, and you know, Casey's one of my young guys that came from the same ranks I did. That was the last guy you'd want to hurt, but you know, I hate it for him, and I hate it for us too. I mean, it could have tore our car up just as easy. I mean, it's not something that was, like I said, I'd like to see what happened too, because I don't know what happened. All I know is I got behind him, and no more than I got behind him, and he checked up all of a sudden. So it didn't make for a very fun restart, that's for sure.
Were you aware that the two teams got together on pit road, Tony?
Well, no, I wasn't, but I'm sure I'll hear about it.
Tony, has this been a disappointing season, a controversial season for you as you stand here in victory lane? How do you look at how things have transpired this year?
Yeah, kind of normal for us. I mean, it's taken us a little longer to get going than normal, but you know, this is, you know, a couple months ago was normally when we get started on a good run, and you know, we had a 5th last week and win this week, so I'd say we're going the right direction again.
How about your approach?
1 week at a time still. That's the only way we can do it. It's you know, we've all wanted to be better than what we are, but you know, it just shows the determination of this Joe Gibbs Racing team. And you know, JD Gibbs is our new leader this year with Joe going back to football, and you know, JD's shown that he's a good leader. I mean, he keeps these guys pumped up. Zippy's done a great job, and these guys just don't quit. I mean, they're probably the toughest Cup crew in Nextel, so you know, I'm pretty fortunate to be with these guys.